The stars above the Zurak border station looked calm, but the officers inside the station knew better. The galaxy was not at peace. War had been raging for years. The Krivak swarm had taken more than 20 star systems. No one had been able to stop them. Not the Volari, not the Graxan Alliance, not even the united fleets of the core worlds. Every time someone tried to fight the Krivaks, they failed. The Zurak station was next. Captain Voro, a reptilian Graxan, stared at the battle map with tired eyes. "They're moving faster than we thought," he said to his team. "The Krivaks will be here in less than a day." His crew stayed silent. They had fought before, and they had lost before. The Krivaks were not just strong, they were cruel and clever. They never left survivors. They melted cities from orbit and harvested resources like machines. And now they were coming for Zurak. "We have no reinforcements," said Officer Tella, a bird-like Volari female. Her voice was calm, but her eyes showed fear. "No one is close enough to help. This is the end." Captain Voro looked at her. "We will not surrender. We hold the line." But inside, even Voro didn't believe those words. Their weapons were old. Their ships were slow. They were just a border outpost, not a fortress. The Krivak's fleet had over 100 warships. They would destroy Zurak in minutes. Still, the crew, prepared for battle. Shields were charged. Fighters were loaded. Wounded were moved to the lower decks. Everyone knew they had one job: buy time. Maybe their sacrifice would warn others. And then, the alarms changed. Not the Krivaks. Something else. "Unknown fleet approaching," shouted Tella. Not Krivaks. Not from any known species. Voro rushed to the main screen. There, coming from the dark side of the system, were ships. Dozens of them. Sleek, dark, and fast. They moved in perfect formation, like a storm in space. Their shapes were sharp and their engines left no clear trail. "Who are they?" asked Tella. Voro's eyes widened. He had seen images like this in old intelligence files, but only once. "Humans," he whispered. Everyone in the room went still. For years, humans had stayed quiet. They had not joined any alliance. They had not sent ambassadors or fleets. No one knew what Earth was doing. Some believed humans were weak. Others thought they were simply peaceful. But now, they were here, and they were heading straight for the Krivaks. On the bridge of the lead ship, Commander Leon Graves stood tall. His uniform was plain, but his presence was strong. He looked over the battlefield with cold focus. The Krivaks were nearly at Zurak, but they would never reach it. "All ships," he said, "activate silent mode, prepare phase 1. The human fleet spread out. No warnings, no greetings, no delay. They moved like a sword." The Krivaks' fleet finally noticed them. Too late. Within seconds, human railguns opened fire. Blue streaks of light tore through space. The Krivaks' ships tried to respond, but the humans were too fast. Their weapons were stronger. Their shields were smarter. Their targeting systems hit perfect marks. 10 Krivak ships exploded before they even fired back. On Zurak Station, the crew watched in silence. This can't be real," said Tella. Captain Voro gripped the edge of the table. "They're cutting through them like paper." The battle was not like anything the crew had seen before. Human tactics were sharp and quick. They didn't wait for commands. Every move was calculated. Every blast had a purpose. Their ships danced between enemy fire like they had rehearsed it. The Krivaks, for the first time in years, looked confused. Their formation broke. Some tried to escape. They never got the chance. Within 1 minute, the battle was over. Not a single human ship was lost. On the human flagship, Commander Graves gave one order: send the message. A signal was sent to Zurak Station. One simple line of text appeared on the main screen. "This system is secure. Stay alive. More will come." Then, just as quickly as they arrived, the human fleet turned and vanished into the stars. No further messages, no demands, no claims, only silence. Captain Voro stood in disbelief. "They saved us, and then left," Tella whispered. Why didn't they come sooner? Foro looked at the stars. Maybe they were waiting. Watching. Building. The officers around him stared at the black space where the humans had gone. They all felt the same thing. Hope. Fear. And a new question. What had Earth become in the years of silence? Far away, deep in Kravak's territory, alarms were now echoing in their command ships. News of the Zurak defeat had reached them. One of their strongest fleets was gone, destroyed in less than a minute, by humans. The Kravak's leader, a creature with skin like black stone, stared at the report. He had once said humans were weak. Now, he was not so sure, and Earth was no longer silent. The battle over Zurak Station became the most talked-about event across the galaxy. Everyone had heard of it. Everyone had seen the recordings. The way the Kravak's fleet was destroyed in under a minute shocked the entire Galactic Council. Even the strongest alien powers had never seen anything like it. But the ones most shaken were the Kravaks themselves. Their commanders gathered in dark war halls, confused and angry. They studied the battle footage again and again. The human ships had moved with perfect timing like machines. Their weapons were too fast, their defense systems too smart, and their attack patterns impossible to counter. How did we not see this coming? One Kravak's general roared, slamming his clawed fist on the metal table. They were silent for years, another said. The humans didn't fight. They didn't speak. They just watched us fight and destroy others. Now, Earth had spoken. And the message was clear. Far from Kravak space, deep within a quiet sector, the second human fleet gathered near a cold, uninhabited moon. Their ships rested like sleeping giants in orbit, covered in dark metal that blended into space. Commander Leon Graves stood again at the helm of his flagship, HSS Valiant. He watched as new ships entered formation. Behind him, his officers waited for orders. We received the next signal, said his second-in-command, a calm woman named Arya Lake. A Kravak's destroyer group is moving toward a civilian transport route. 4 colonies are in their path. Leon didn't hesitate. Send the full wave. No survivors. This ends now. The second fleet moved out like a storm cloud. They didn't use normal routes. Human ships had technology others couldn't track. Their engines didn't glow, their scanners didn't leave traces, and their code was unreadable by alien systems. By the time the Kravak's destroyers saw the humans, it was already too late. Thui. Sky around the Kravak ships changed, silent, dark, and heavy. Then came the first wave of human firepower. Massive kinetic rounds hit Kravak ships before they could lock targets. Plasma shells followed next, melting armor in seconds. Human fighters zipped between enemy lines with sharp movements. Their tiny ships were faster than anything the Kravaks had ever faced. The Kravaks tried to organize a response, but their ships were already falling apart. The humans were not just attacking, they were hunting. In a nearby command center on Colony, Theta 3, young officer Dale Morgan watched the battle through live feed. He had never seen a human fleet in action before. He had grown up hearing stories, old rumors, myths about Earth's strange ways. Some said they used weapons that bent gravity. Others said their soldiers were trained to fight blindfolded. Dale thought those were just stories. Until now. He watched as the Kravak ships exploded one after another, unable to fight back. The battle ended in less than 45 seconds. A single human message was sent to the colony. You are safe. Earth watches, Dale whispered. This isn't a fleet. It's a hammer. Back on the HSS Valiant, Commander Graves walked silently through the ship's bridge. His crew stood sharp and ready. No one celebrated. There were no cheers. Just quiet focus. This war is not over, he said. But we will finish it. Every system the Kravaks touched will be free. His officers nodded. Humanity had stayed out of galactic politics for a reason. They had watched for years while the alliances formed and fell. They had listened while the Kravaks destroyed entire planets. They had seen enough. Now humanity had returned, not to talk, but to fight. And when humans fought, they fought to win. In another part of space, the Galactic Council met in emergency session. Leaders of 20 species spoke at once, trying to understand what was happening. "Why didn't the humans join us before?" one alien asked. "Are they a threat too?" Another added, "They saved Zurak." "They saved the colonies," a voice said. "They are not enemies. They are something else." Finally, one voice spoke above them all. It was a wise elder from the Eridanian race known for peaceful logic. "Let me tell you what I see," she said. "Humans are not like us. They waited. They learned. They built. And when they came, they didn't ask. They acted. Because for them, talking ends when danger begins." The room fell silent. Meanwhile, in Krivak's space, panic spread. Their military leaders were afraid. Their soldiers were shaken, and their leaders were desperate. For the first time in decades, they feared being on the losing side. The Krivak's high command sent a coded message across the stars. "Attempt contact with Earth. Offer ceasefire. Request terms." The reply came hours later. "Earth does not negotiate with those who feed on the weak." The message was short, but it was terrifying. Back on the human flagship, Commander Graves stood in front of a small window, watching a distant star. Arya Lake joined him. "They're trying to make contact now," she said. "But we're not answering." Graves nodded. "They had their chance. Now we speak through fire." "What next?" she asked. He turned to her. His eyes were steady. "We bring the Third Fleet online. We go to the core." The stars near the Krivak's core systems were quiet. Too quiet. For years, the Krivaks had ruled this part of the galaxy without fear. Their black-armored ships moved freely, attacking colonies and wiping out resistance. No one dared to challenge them here. But that time was over. Now, Krivak's patrol ships moved in pairs, scanning every shadow. They had begun to fear what they couldn't see. The humans. They had good reason to be afraid. In orbit above a scorched moon, a massive human command ship hovered in silence. Its name was HSS Sentinel, and its presence alone sent waves through Krivak space. Inside the control room, Commander Leon Graves stood with arms crossed. Before him, dozens of officers worked at glowing stations. The room was calm but full of energy. Each person had one mission: to bring the war to an end. "Are the ships in position?" Graves asked. "Yes, Commander," replied Arya Lake. "Third Fleet has arrived. We've surrounded Sector 9 without being detected." Graves gave a slow nod. "Good. Begin the broadcast." Across the stars, human satellites activated. On every Krivak's-controlled station, screen, and signal tower, a single message appeared. It was not a demand. It was not a threat. It was a truth. Human voice echoed in the Krivak's language, slow and clear. "You brought pain. You brought fear. You fed on the helpless. Earth has watched. And now, Earth answers." The message ended with one final warning: there will be no mercy. Then the feed cut to black. Panic followed. Krivak's command centers scrambled to block human signals. But it was too late. Their soldiers had already heard it. Their citizens were already whispering about Earth. The Krivak's leaders tried to rally their forces. Warships were recalled, defenses were prepared, and spies were sent to learn more about this terrifying human force. But it didn't matter, because the humans weren't hiding. They were already moving. In a quiet part of space near Krivak's mining fields, a small group of alien workers spotted something strange, a shimmer in the darkness. Then human ships appeared, 12 in total. They didn't fire. They didn't need to. The Krivak's patrol ships that guarded the mining zone exploded before the workers could even blink. And then, the humans left. They left the workers alive. That, alone, spread fear faster than any attack. "Why didn't they destroy us?" one worker whispered. "Because we weren't the enemy," another replied. The workers sent the message to others. Humans only destroy those who choose war. Back on the HSS Sentinel, Commander Graves reviewed a new report. Arya stood beside him. 5 Krivak's outposts abandoned, she said. No resistance. Graves placed the report down. They're afraid, but they haven't changed. They sent another message today, she added. A request for peace. Talks. Graves shook his head. They don't want peace, they want time to regroup. We can't let that happen. Then what do we do now? Graves stared at the map of the galaxy glowing on the screen in front of him. Red marks showed Krivak's control zones. Blue lines showed human fleet paths. The red was shrinking. We show them why silence was never weakness, he said. We show them why Earth waited. The truth was simple. For years, Earth had remained quiet while the galaxy burned. Many alien species believed the humans were afraid. Some believed they were lazy. But those who looked deeper knew the truth. Earth was preparing. While the Krivaks expanded, humans built stronger ships, smarter AI, and new weapons. They developed stealth engines, adaptive shields, and railguns that could destroy ships in one hit, but most of all, they trained. Human fleet commanders weren't politicians. They were survivors, warriors, and protectors. Their strategy was not to defend planets, they wanted to end the war entirely. And now, they were doing it. Across the galaxy, stories spread like fire. Stories of human fleets arriving without warning and wiping out entire Krivaks groups in seconds. Tales of silent ships that flew between stars faster than light. And the most powerful story of all, humans only attacked those who deserved it. Many alien species began to speak of Earth with respect. Some even called them the Judgment Fleet. Inside the Krivaks' Grand Chamber, the ruling council argued. They are not a normal enemy, one shouted. They don't follow rules, they don't negotiate, they just strike. We must offer them something, another said. A truce, an alliance, something. But the Supreme Commander stood and raised his hand. Enough, he said, his voice like stone. You all forget who we are. We are Krivaks. We do not kneel, we do not beg. But if we do nothing, another council member whispered, they will erase us, the Supreme Commander growled. Then let them come. Back on the HSS Sentinel, a new message arrived. Commander Graves read it slowly. They have refused. Peace again? Arya said. He nodded. Then we send one final message. A simple message was prepared and sent across every Krivak's signal path. We gave you the choice to stop. You chose war. Now we will end it. And with that, the human fleets began their next move. They turned toward the Krivaks' home sector, not to talk, not to wait, but to finish what was started. The Krivaks' high command was furious. Every corner of their empire had been touched by the human fleet. Patrols were destroyed. Outposts were taken. Their warships were vanishing faster than they could be replaced. But the worst part? No one had even seen a human casualty. In every report, the same words appeared. Fleet gone, no survivors, human ships untouched. The Krivaks' leaders could no longer deny the truth. Earth's power was real. Their silence had not been weakness, it had been preparation. And now the storm was falling on them. The Krivaks had only one choice left: retaliation. At the Krivaks' warforge, deep in their home sector, their largest ship ever built stood ready. It was called the Dread Sun, a massive black war carrier shaped like a spiked moon. It was the pride of the Krivaks' fleet. It had over 10,000 crew members, hundreds of weapon turrets, and a core reactor strong enough to destroy a small planet. No enemy had ever stood against it. Now, the Dread Sun was given one mission: destroy the humans. The Krivaks believed the humans wouldn't expect such a large ship so deep in their space. They believed it would finally stop Earth's advance. They were wrong. Commander Leon Graves stood aboard the HSS Valiant, watching the updated map. Red lights blinked near Sector 17. The Dread Sun was coming. They're sending their biggest ship, said Arya Lake, standing beside him. Graves didn't blink. We've been waiting for it. They want to scare us. Graves turned toward her. Then we'll teach them what real fear looks like. He gave the order. Send in the Spear Unit. The Spear Unit was Earth's most elite attack group. 6 ships that moved as one. Smaller than the main fleet, but faster and deadlier. Each ship was equipped with the latest stealth tech, railguns, and AI-guided projectiles that could bend around enemy shields. They moved without sound. No warnings. No lights. The moment the dread sun entered open space, the humans struck. The first Krivax officer aboard the dread sun didn't even see the shot coming. A railgun slug pierced the carrier's outer shell and destroyed 2 power rooms. "In one hit, where did it come from?" the captain shouted. "Unknown, we don't see them." Seconds later, 2 more blasts hit the side of the dread sun, tearing into its inner structure. Fires broke out. Systems failed. Turrets spun blindly. Still, the humans didn't stop. Spear units circled the massive ship like wolves around a wounded beast. The Krivax fired wildly, but nothing hit. Human ships were too fast, too smart. They vanished before sensors could track them. Back on the HSS Valiant, Graves watched the battle in real time. "Target their control cores," he said. "Don't destroy the whole ship yet. Let them understand." The Spear unit obeyed. They hit critical spots, shield banks, targeting computers, engine relays. The dread sun lost half its systems in under 1 minute. Inside the Krivax ship, fear spread like fire. Lights flickered, orders were shouted, but nothing worked. No one could fight back. It was not a battle, it was a warning. Then the final human message came. "You brought this on yourselves," and with that, the last shot was fired. The dread sun cracked open like a shell. Its engines shut down. Explosions tore through its body. It began to fall into a nearby gravity well. The humans left. They didn't stay to gloat. They didn't even watch it burn. They had sent their message. Across the galaxy, the news spread like wildfire. The Krivax had lost their most powerful ship. In less than a minute, the fear in their empire turned to panic. Soldiers abandoned their posts. Civilians began to flee outer worlds. Leaders started blaming one another. Alien species who had once feared Earth now started sending messages of support and alliance. Some begged to join Earth's side. At the Galactic Council, arguments broke out. The Krivax can't win now. They brought this destruction on themselves. Earth must take leadership. But Earth sent only one reply to the Council. "We are not here to lead. We are here to stop the war." This simple message gained Earth even more respect. The humans had power, but no hunger for control. They wanted peace, not domination, and that scared the Krivax even more. Because how do you stop an enemy who doesn't want your land, but only to end your cruelty? Inside the Krivax Grand Chamber, silence filled the air. The dread sun's destruction had shaken even the highest leaders. "They destroyed it without losing a single ship," whispered one commander. The supreme leader of the Krivax finally stood. His stone-gray skin seemed darker than usual. His voice, once proud, now held weight. "We can no longer fight them in open space," he said. "Our fleets are weak. Our power is breaking." "Should we surrender?" someone dared to ask. The leader's eyes burned with anger. "No, we fall back. We prepare one last defense. If they come for our homeworld, they will have to fight through everything we have." But even he didn't believe they would win. Back in the human command center, Graves stood with his team. "Any sign of surrender?" he asked. "None," said Arya. "They're falling back, gathering everything around their capital." Graves gave a long breath. "They want to make their final stand." He looked at the stars on the map. The Krivax home sector, the last red zone on the chart. "Then we finish this," he said. The room grew quiet. No one cheered. They all knew what this meant. The final phase had begun. The humans were coming, not with rage, not with pride, but with purpose, to end the war once and for all. The stars above the Krivax home sector were no longer silent. Hundreds of Krivax ships floated in space, ready to protect their final stronghold. Massive defense satellites turned slowly, their weapons pointed outward. The Krivax had gathered. Every fleet, every drone, every soldier they had left. They were preparing for the end. Their leaders believed the humans would come in a massive wave, loud and fast. But what came instead was silence. No alarms, no warnings, just the quiet feeling of something watching them. Inside the main command center of the Krivax capital, the supreme leader stood over a glowing map. His commanders surrounded him, every Sensor had been activated. Every eye was on the skies. "Where are they?" asked one officer nervously. "Humans don't move like others," another replied. "They strike before you know it." The Supreme Leader remained quiet. He knew this was not a normal enemy. The humans were different. They didn't fight for power. They didn't want territory. They fought to end cruelty. And the Krivax had given them plenty of reasons. Far beyond the edge of Krivax space, the human fleet waited in complete formation. Thousands of ships lined up with perfect timing, like stars, in motion. At the center of it all, the flagship HSS Sentinel stood ready. Commander Leon Graves watched the battlefield from the front window. His face was calm, but his eyes were sharp. He had studied this enemy for years. He knew how they thought. And now he knew how they would fall. "All units in position," said Arya Lake. "Signal the fleets," Graves said. "Begin Operation Endstone." The human fleet didn't rush in. They appeared at once, surrounding the Krivax sector from all sides. It was like the stars themselves had turned into ships. The Krivax command center lit up with red alerts. Incoming. Multiple signatures, every direction. No warp trail, they just appeared. Then came the message. It was short. From Earth. No more war. The first wave began. Human ships fired without delay. Railguns tore through the outer Krivax lines. Plasma cannons melted defense turrets. Drone swarms moved like clouds, shutting down systems before they could respond. Krivax ships tried to fight back, but human shields absorbed their attacks. Their weapons were too slow. Their targeting too weak. The Krivax outer fleet was gone. In 30 seconds. On the ground, Krivax citizens watched from shelters and buildings. They had grown up believing in their empire's strength. They had been taught that humans were primitive. But now they saw the truth. From the dark skies, they saw human ships move like shadows. They heard the deep echoes of human weapons. They saw their proud towers shaking. And yet, the humans didn't fire on the cities. They didn't destroy the homes. They only targeted weapons. For the first time, the Krivax people began to question everything they were told. In one village, a young Krivax child asked her mother, "Will the humans kill us?" Her mother looked at the sky, trembling. "I don't know. But they haven't yet." That was the beginning of a change. Fear became something else. It became respect. Inside the command room of the HSS Sentinel, Arya gave an update. 25% of their fleet is down. No civilian areas touched. Our losses, 0. Graves nodded. "Good. They need to understand we are not like them." Another officer spoke. "Sir, multiple Krivax ships are breaking formation. Some are surrendering." "Surrender?" Arya asked, surprised. "Yes, ma'am. They're powering down weapons and sending distress signals." Graves gave a slow breath. "Accept the surrender. Send rescue drones, help their wounded." "You want to help the enemy?" asked one officer. Graves turned toward him. "No. I want to show them who we are." The human ships began pulling injured Krivax crews from drifting ships. Medical pods were launched. Drones repaired what could be saved. The Krivax soldiers, expecting death, were met with kindness. One Krivax captain, injured and bleeding, looked at a human medic and asked, "Why help me?" The human replied, "Because you're not holding a weapon anymore." That moment spread through the Krivax networks. Not all humans were machines of war. They had hearts, too, and that changed everything. In the Krivax Grand Chamber, chaos filled the air. "Our ships are falling. Half the fleet is gone. More surrendering every hour. We must end this." The Supreme Leader stared at the message screen. Dozens of calls came in from commanders begging for orders, but he had no answer. Then, something unexpected happened. The chamber doors opened. A young Krivax officer stepped in holding a message. "What is this?" the leader asked. "It's a direct line from the human commander," the officer said. Everyone froze. The Supreme Leader stepped forward and read the message out loud. "You do not need to fall. You only need to stop." Silence filled the room. It was not a threat. It was an offer. Later that day, for the first time in Krivax history, The red war banners were lowered across the homeworld, not out of fear, but because they had finally seen something greater than power. They had seen humanity, and they understood. Back on the HSS Sentinel, the final report came in. All Krivax ships have powered down. Capital City has ceased resistance. Arya looked at Graves. It's over? Graves stared out the window. No. Ending a war is easy. Healing after it, that takes time. But deep in his heart, he felt something lift. The galaxy would never be the same, and humans had shown the way. The war that had once set the galaxy on fire was now quiet. Krivax warships no longer patrolled the stars. The black banners of their empire no longer flew above conquered planets. Across the galaxy, species that had once lived in fear stepped out of the shadows, blinking into the light, and at the center of it all stood the humans. They had entered the war zone like ghosts, quiet, powerful, precise. They had destroyed what others could not, and not with hate or greed, but with a sense of duty. Now, their fleets hung over the Krivax homeworld, not as conquerors but as watchers. The galaxy waited to see what they would do next. On the surface of the Krivax capital, the air was still. The skies, once full of screaming engines and rising smoke, were clear. In the main city, where tall dark towers had once reached into the clouds, crowds of Krivax citizens stood quietly. They looked up, not with fear, but with curiosity. Above, them human ships floated in perfect silence, no weapons pointed down, no threats made, no orders given. It was as if the humans were saying, "We are done. The rest is up to you." Inside the HSS Sentinel, Commander Leon Graves stood at the center of the bridge. Screens showed every part of the now silent battlefield. His officers waited for his command. Arya Lake stepped beside him. "No resistance remains," she said softly. "No more targets, no more battles." Graves didn't answer at first. He stared at the main screen. The Krivax capital looked peaceful from orbit, so different from the war-torn systems they had passed through. "It's strange," he said, at last. "We planned for every possible outcome, but we never planned for peace." Arya smiled. "Maybe that means we've already won." A message came through. It was from the Galactic Council. They thanked Earth, they praised the human fleet, they offered seats of power and leadership. But Earth refused. Graves sent a reply on behalf of humanity. "We did not come for power. We came because no one else could. When the weak were crushed, we stood up. That is enough." The message was heard across the stars. And for the first time in generations, the galaxy understood what kind of species the humans truly were. In a small outpost on a distant world, a group of Volari students gathered around a history teacher. "Is it true?" one student asked. "The humans ended the war in just days?" The teacher nodded. "Yes, but not because they had stronger weapons, though they did. It was because they never forgot who they were. They fought with heart, and they never gave up." Another student asked, "Will they stay now? Will they rule the galaxy?" The teacher smiled. "No, they don't want thrones. They only wanted peace." Back in the Krivax capital, things began to change. Without their military command, local leaders stepped forward. They opened talks with nearby colonies. They asked for help rebuilding. For the first time, Krivax diplomats reached out, not to threaten, but to understand. Human medical teams came to assist. Engineers helped restart power systems. Water plants and schools were repaired. Many Krivax could not believe it. Just days ago they had been fighting these same humans in space. Now they were sharing tools, meals, and plans. One old Krivax citizen said, "The war ended when the humans arrived, but our healing began when they stayed." Commander Graves walked through a recovered hospital. Children peeked out from behind walls. Soldiers lowered their heads with quiet respect. No one cheered, no one clapped, but the silence was enough. It meant safety. It meant hope. He sat beside a wounded Krivax officer whose ship had been saved by human drones. "You had every reason to let us fall," the officer said. But you didn't. Why? Graves replied, because war doesn't end with death, it ends with choice. You chose to stop fighting, we chose to help. The officer nodded slowly. Then maybe we can build something better. As the human fleets prepared to leave, messages poured in from planets across the galaxy. Aliens who had been rescued, worlds that had been protected, people who had been saved. Each one said the same thing in different languages. Thank you, Earth. And Earth answered with silence, not because they had nothing to say, but because their mission was complete. A week later, the last human fleet disappeared into the stars. No celebration, no parade, just peace. Back on Earth, people returned to their lives. Scientists studied new discoveries. Farmers worked in quiet fields. Children played under clear skies. And the stories began to spread. Stories of how the galaxy once burned, until the humans came. In a small field near a human colony, Arya Lake sat watching the sunrise. Commander Graves walked up beside her. Hard to believe it's really over, she said. Graves nodded. It's never really over. But for now, we've given them a chance. She looked at him. Do you think they'll use it? He looked at the sky. I hope so. The war that had shaken the stars ended not with a massive explosion, not with a speech, and not with a crown. It ended with silence, and the quiet strength of a species that refused to look away while others suffered. They entered the war zone. And the enemy didn't last a minute, but what they left behind was peace.